exactly. Just didn't care. Like, yeah, just didn't care. Exactly. Oh,
I
he
didn't.
died. Oh, he's burning. Oh, okay.
How did it get burned?
How did it get burned? How did it get burned?
Even his shouting was just so pathetic. Ah,
You say that, but
Just like
when
that.
he was shouting and in pain, that was some of the best acting he.
Really?
I won't say ever, but it's
Nicolas Cage in pain in The Wicker Man is the best acting ever.
It's true. Like there would be moments when Camilla just like, and then suddenly he's just like, ah. I was just like, oh, he actually shows emotion.
I mean, he did also do it when he was like, how did it get burned? How did it get burned?
How did it get burned? How did it get burned?
face.
No, that's a face.
Please.
No, that's a face.
Aaron eyes.
I'm actually kind of shocked that like this has got like worse overall than the room, like considering the room's like barely finished.
Oh wow, it is. It's like 2.5 compared to 3.4. Dang.
To be
It's like
fair
decisive.
though, the room does have an advantage in that it's not a film about a bee colony. So
Well, that kind of pissed me off a bit because you know the fact that he has an allergy and he straight up tells everyone he has an allergy, and he just walks into this like beehive.
that was so dumb.
And then just like suddenly there's oh shit, there's a beehive, and then they're all on him. It's like you'd realise that straight away as soon as you see a beehive, you're just gonna walk straight away from it.
Yeah, he didn't back up or run the opposite way. He runs into them.
Yeah,
I forgot about that. Oh, so dumb. The thing is, the original is meant to be a classic. It's meant to be good, and I thought, okay, cool. They're gonna remake this, but they just trashed all over it. Anyway, I'll wait for that.
yeah, that's kind of my biggest problem with it, Emmanuel, is that they well, I don't know, it felt like they didn't even watch the original. Like it felt like somebody explained the original and then they went, all right, I don't really get what you mean, but we'll remake it, that's fine.
Let's just make it a covenant of weird people. That's all you need.
It's really bizarre.
How did it get burned? How did it get burned?
How did it get burned? How did it get burned?
No, I did like that. I like that. I just like that he even like goes because it's like an old flame of mine is like, oh yeah, come help me with this thing. My daughter's missing on Cat Hair Island, and I'm like, yeah, I might be okay.
Well, that's another thing, isn't it? Because in the original, you kind of going, this seems like a lot of effort to go to on the strength of a random letter. But then in the second, they kind of explain it more. I mean, in the remake, they explain it more, but they explain it to the point where you're going, you're a fucking idiot. Like, why are you following this letter? Well, in the original, it's kind of ambiguous enough to go like, all right, maybe there's something to it. But in the remake, it's like, no, this is all of it. And that's a stupid decision.
It should have like a big woman saying cultists beware. And he just goes, whatever.
You kind of needed like a second character just to go, dude, you're allergic to bees and this island is full of bees. Don't go there.
Yeah.
Why is it full of bees? The bees are their emblem.
It's the thing. First thing is the fucking stamp, and it's like, that's a bee. It's a bee colony.
I loved it as well, like when he's researching them online, and even on the website, there's like a category of bee products.
Where the fuck is Pat?
The thing is,
where is Pat?
It would have made more sense if they had actually kidnapped. They wrote it so that they kidnapped her, and they actually were still a thing. They had a kid and everything. Imagine that would be so much different. It would be like, okay, police cop has been looking for his wife for like whatever many years, and no one's been able to find her. And then suddenly he gets this letter from them. We have your wife and your kid. If you really want them, come back. And then that would even make it even more interesting because at the end, because obviously he's going into a trap, but he's trying to find his wife and kid and just keeps finding clues and all these kind of things. And then suddenly, but then that's a different film. Never mind.
It would have been more credible than just going, I appreciate you're allergic to bees. However, you do have a child on this island and she's missing.
Yeah, or made it so that it wasn't obvious that there were bees until there were.
And then it's like, oh shit, it's too late to get out of this now.
Oh, I just think the whole premise is stupid. Like, I'll wait until Pat gets here to go into it properly. But
I think the concept had promise.
Excuse me. Yeah,
the original concept was a good concept. Like that.
Oh yeah, original concept. Yeah.
Yeah, because in the original film, like it's a whole thing about pagans versus Christians, and that instantly makes sense. But I don't know why they took that and they went, right, let's make it men versus women, and let's make the driver of it all bees versus someone who's allergic to bees. Like, I don't understand why did they think that was a good idea?
Man.
Well, they kind of completely sidelined like Christopher Lee's character, the main, what's his name? Because he was the most important one in a way, because he's the one that's, it's just kind of like doesn't quite work without someone like him. Yeah.
I was going to say, what's also funny is the fact that he's only got 2 EpiPens. It's just like he's got 2 EpiPens. So, and for his bee allergy, he basically got 2
kind of thing.
He's got 2 of them, and that's it. And he'll go into an island full of bees.
That would have been great though. Just like gets stung once, and he's like, good thing I got my EpiPens, and he gets stung twice, and he's like, oh, out of EpiPens now. I hope I'm not going to. Oh no.
I like taking risks.
That's another thing though, isn't it? Because like, you know, the bit at the start where they steal his self-help book, and it's just like, who's taken my self-help book that I'm never going to mention again? And like, why didn't you just take an EpiPen? Like, that's a lot more relevant.
Yeah.
Also, all the self-help books being called "Everything's Okay."
Yeah.
That whole line, that whole part was just so pointless. No one cares. It has no relevance. But I really do get what you mean about how, because obviously I haven't seen the original, but the fact, from what I hear from you guys, that's so different. Like you said, they literally just explained it to them, and someone just went, "Oh yeah, okay, yeah, I don't get that. Cool, I'm gonna make this instead."
I would really, really recommend watching the original one because it informs this like so much. And it's not like a very well-made film. Like, it's definitely kind of its time, like BBC drama kind of level.
It's very dated from the same.
It's a 1970s movie, but like it just like kind of writing wise, it's like pretty fun. I think it's pretty good. But
Yeah, I really like the original. Like I said, like, it just instantly makes sense to have a Christian go to a pagan island and then have him kind of wandering around going like, these people are mental, like they're all sort of horrible people, they're all naked, what's going on? That makes complete sense. And like I said, I don't know why they took that concept and they were like, right, we need to bring this into the modern day. We need to take religion out of it. Let's just make it men versus women. Bees are scary. Like, I don't understand the thought process behind it.
You keep all the lines the same though.
Like
airdrop it like 40 years into the future. Put it in America.
Same, isn't it? The classroom team is pretty much word for word, but except in the old one it's the beetle and the new one's a crow for some reason. And it's like,
what I love about the classroom scene in the remake though is that when Nicolas Cage, like, it's another moment like we were saying about in the room of self-awareness, because Nicolas Cage goes in and all the kids are sat there going phallic symbol, and then just completely off screen you hear Nicolas Cage laughing.
Really?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. Oh fuck, I'll have to go back and watch that. I didn't even realise that was the thing.
I just like his whole thing where in like the original, it's like they've tied, like the girl's tied like a beetle around a nail in the thing, but then in the other one it's just gone, oh, it's a crow. And he's going like, why would you do something like this? And I'm like, how did you do something like this? You trapped a crow.
Yeah, and there's no noise or any indication it's over there. Whereas, like in the original, yeah, you can imagine the kids would do something like that for real. It makes more logical sense.
I did think
That's
though,
right.
like, because with the Crow, I was kind of going, this is a team effort. Like, you can't do that on your own. But then I was thinking, to be fair, like, I don't know, I suppose bees do work together, so maybe that was on purpose.
I kind of wanted to see the film about we need to freak out Nicolas Cage. We all need to band together to trap a crow in a desk. We're not going to freak him out with that.
That was a real moment of like the voice of the audience for Nicolas Cage though, because that whole scene, because like he laughs at them chanting phallic symbol, and then when the crow comes out of the desk, he's just like, "Why have you let them do that?" And that's exactly what I was sat there thinking when it happened.
Give them a merit just for the fact they got the fucker in the desk.
Yeah.
The thing is, who approved this film? Who looked at this? Who looked at the script and looked at the film and said, "Oh, this is fine to go to cinema." Seriously,
I would have.
whoever did that did not care. They were just like, "Well, I'm getting paid."
I would have loved to have been there at the pitch meeting, just like an executive sat there going, right, so you're going to take an old film about religion and you're going to replace the religion with bees. And they're just going, yeah, that's the premise, yeah. And then everyone was like, yeah, all right then, like, what?
Exactly.
Gonna have this scene where they put a mask on him with bees in it, and he's gonna shout this really dumb line that's gonna be trapped in
The bee hat is just.
Yeah, there's just no
To be
point
honest.
because it's like they break his legs, and that's basically all they needed to do to get him into the Wicker Man thing. It's like, what was the point?
Oh, and they had the second EpiPen.
Exactly.
Oh, fucking finally.
Oh my god, it talks about the film now. Jesus.
But yeah, what was the point then? It's true.
Hi guys. Oh no. Yeah, you're okay.
Oh man.
Sorry,
And by the
there's not a
time
Nicolas
he-
Cage. shirt.
By the time he was saying not the bees, I really didn't care. So, I don't
Sorry.
think it had the impact on me that it didn't.
Oh,
Like you guys, I was like, okay. I
Sorry
was
for
already
ruining it, Ben.
done.
what,
Hey, Pat.
Hey, man.
what really made me laugh about that bit where he gets stung by the bees in the mask is the fact that he doesn't have any convulsions or anything. He just kind of goes, goes to sleep, and they stick the thing in him. He goes like,
It's just somebody like you can see that like he's got like some pimples and stuff afterwards, but it doesn't look like serious enough. It's like you can tell that was just him just acting over the top over nothing. And the CGI.
Nicolas Cage overact, yeah.
God.
Be like a click.
The whole thing, like, it really lends itself to that Simpsons joke about speed, doesn't it? Because it's like there was this man who was allergic to bees, and he went to this island full of bees, and he killed a bee, and then he put on a helmet full of bees. I think it was called the Bee Movie.
Right, now Pat said, should we like start officially?
Oh, you should have started without me.
Oh, we kind of did, to be fair.
we had like a pre-show before you got.
Fair dues.
We kind of didn't want to talk about certain things because it's part of the chat.
We didn't want to talk about the burning.
We were like, let's keep pump the brakes until Pat gets here, and then we just talked about it for the whole half an hour, and we were like, oh, actually,
We had the hors d'oeuvres to start.
Humphrey, why'd you pick this fucking film?
So why did I pick this film? Because of the meme. Just because of the meme. Basically.
The memes.
How to give names?
Because the thing was, I was looking on the Rotten Tomatoes, and I was just like, oh, I could pick that film. And then I saw that one. I'm like, I'm picking it because I've never seen it, and I've only seen the bits.
What was your second choice out of interest?
Second? To be honest, I can't really remember. It's so long ago. I probably, if I looked again, I could probably tell you, but it was, yeah, I just picked it basically because of the meme. But yeah, I just, to be honest, when I was watching, I'm just like, wow, this is the worst script I've ever heard in a film. Like even the fucking one from The Room, even though it was completely trash, it's just at least it was bad acting that made made it fucking hilarious. Whereas this was just like, really, you're serious? Like his whole dialogue was just trash. I just so I've watched a few Nicolas Cage films, and he's actually quite a good actor in some of them. But in this one, it was just like you could tell he couldn't give a shit. And it was just like just ranting most of the time.
And punching.
It was just like it was. I don't know. It's just so bad. And even the bit like with the bear suit when he runs up, and it's like, "What you doing, sister?" Smack.
That's the thing. Like every
No,
time
what?
he punches like 3 separate people, like, and it's always out of nowhere, and it's always fucking hilarious.
The best,
in the room as well. It's
the second best one is when he kicks the woman at the wall, and you think she dies because she kind of goes like. Her eyes kind of roll back in her head, and then magically she's alive at the end. And I'm like, okay. It's like I didn't understand. I wanted to know how they managed to get the woman and the child out of the car. How they got out of the car before the thing hit them. It's like they didn't really explain that at all, and I don't think they would have been able to do it because it was so quick. But
Dan, I think
Wait, what?
there was nobody in the car.
Yeah, it was his mind the whole time, I think, or it could have been them playing tricks. I don't know. It's so bad. Anyway,
Everyone was bees. I think that's what we need to take.
Yeah.
the bees. Yeah.
Knees.
It was so badly scripted and made that I don't really understand what they were trying to do.
Well, most of it was just thrown away, wasn't it? Because it's kind
Yeah.
of I don't like it, like that whole sort of opening sequence where they're in the cafe and he buys a self-help book, and then the lorry, the scene with the lorry. It's kind of I don't know why.
They cut back to the crash scene as like a flashback, but about like 4 times, and like it's never relevant other than the kid's like kind of resembles his kid.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
And what was it as well? Sorry, what you said. The point. I thought the point was they're remaking the film for modern day, because which in concept is good. I mean, the film was made 33 years prior, pretty much by that point when it came out. So I thought that's a good time to re-release something, like to remake something for the modern day, modern audience or ages at that time. That's a good idea. You did terribly, but it was a good idea.
I thought the original was shit too.
Yes. How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned?
Not the bees are in my eyes, not the bees.
I'm going to buy you a beekeeper's helmet, and I'm going to put these in it. The bees.
I think that's the thing though, like in concept, it is actually quite a nice idea. Well, not fully in concept, but the idea of remaking the original, I think is a good idea.
Yeah.
Because like I said earlier, like setting it up as Christians versus pagans, like in the 70s, that was probably really powerful, but not so much now. So remaking that and trying to make it fit a modern audience, like I'm fully in support of. I just really don't understand why they said, let's replace the Christians with men, let's replace the pagans with women, and let's just make it all about bees. I don't understand how. I know I keep saying it, I just don't understand how anybody okayed it. And as well, when I was watching it, right, so I was kind of getting through it, and like I can't remember what happened now, but something happened, and I was like, oh, have they got like a hive mind or something? And then something else happened, and I was like, oh, okay, the men are just like worker bees. And then they kept mentioning Sister Summerall, and I was like, oh, so she's like the queen. And then it all came together, and I was like, hang on a minute, hive mind, worker bees, queen, they're all bees. This is stupid. And then from there, I was just like, I can't take this.
The drone.
Oh, that's good. I didn't even pay enough attention to even realize that. Caught that. I just kept thinking, this is so bad. When is this ending?
I think. Oh, sorry, Pat.
It completely lost me by the time he got his letter.
But even that, so in the original,
By the
like
time what?
he got his
By the-
letter.
Oh,
Sorry, Pat.
Yeah,
But even that,
no.
even that though, so like in the original, like obviously it's a pagan island, so they target a Christian. Like makes sense just straight away. But then in this, it's an island that worships bees, so they find someone who's allergic to bees. That's stupid.
I think
what
it
point
goes
did
to
I
show, like the beginning of the original one. No, sorry, actually, I'll go from the remake first. The remake, they've set up. He's a police officer and he's got a self-help book, and he witnesses a crash, and he tries to help this girl because she looks like his daughter, and then it explodes in his face, and then he has to like recoup and everything, and kind of like get over it, and then he gets a letter from his ex, and then he has to go and like try and bribe like a fucking seaplane captain to go and get over there. And then we get to the same point that the original's got to. The original guy, he just gets a call and he's already flying there, and that's where the first film starts. It's like
it's
just his
just like-
job. He's just a copper.
There's like so much preamble in the remake, isn't it?
Yeah.
It gets
Now
straight to the point in the
But now
original.
we've just added, and also he gets to Summer Isle. Sorry, in the original it's called Summer Isle. In this one it's called Summer's Isle, which is shit. It's the worst way of doing it.
Summer's Isle.
But like the first Summer Isle is not a cartoonish female colony. It's just, yeah, it just looks like Somerset. Like, it's just hanging out. And it basically just looks like a normal town. Whereas with this, and it's like, yeah, we're gonna go to this like just whimsical all-female commune, which is on an island situated between California and Washington. It's like great, yeah. That's
I think that,
Yeah. Also, I don't get the point. Sorry, I don't get the point as to why they have the girl he saves look like his daughter, but there was no girl there. It's like it's like they suggested certain kind of powers, magical powers, and then nothing gets explained. Like, okay, so someone came from the island, or they told someone from the island, maybe it's the airplane guy, to deliver this letter to him somehow. I don't know. But it's just like they don't that whole first scene, I'm just like, it doesn't make sense. Camilla's saying the same thing.
I mean,
Sorry, let me
like,
stop.
while they definitely don't, while most of it doesn't make sense, I don't think there's any problem with the daughter thing because he didn't know he had a daughter until he got there. Like whether there was or wasn't a girl in that car in the first place, which like the problem with this movie is basically what Rob was saying, that they lay down like 12,000 threads and then they only follow like one of them. But yeah, he didn't know he had a daughter until he actually got there, so like that bit isn't really relevant.
yeah, it's kind of like they started off as a choose your own adventure and then stuck with one and didn't give us the option of the others.
But yeah, what I find quite interesting is the fact that there's an alternate ending.
oh yeah.
So like the scene with like the bee mask thing, that wasn't even the version that I watched.
Oh, man.
So the scene that I watched instead was actually fucking hilarious because it starts from when they all start coming in on him and he starts like kicking and punching them and they pin him down. Obviously, the scene that most, if not all of you would have seen is that they then bring on some logs and break his legs. What I got was it starts fading to black then, and then you just get the audio of that.
Oh no.
Yeah.
God.
So it's fucking hilarious. They start doing a panning shot. And hearing it, no, you crazy bitches, like, but no visual. And then you just hear like a crunch and him being like, ah, and then another crunch and him being like, my legs. And I burst out laughing because it was so bad. Like they don't put the audio bit for the actual bees section because I guess that wouldn't work without a visual. But yeah, it just goes from that to them carrying him up. And like, I know that he had both of his legs broken, but when they like unfurl the thing and he's looking at him, I'm like, what the fuck? Why does he look so out of it? Like, I know you'd be in intense pain from your legs being broken, but he looks fucking like. And then when I watched the actual scene, I was like, oh right, he got basically poisoned and then hit with adrenaline. So yeah, you'd be pretty out of it.
Oh, I love the idea of like just a fade to black thing, and then you just hear it. You're just like, no, not the strawberry jam. Ah!
Obviously, the meme is like the most well-known thing about this, and like it got to the credits, and I was like, wait, what about the bees? Well,
That would have also. Oh, sorry.
because for me it was like, oh, the Wicker Man scene's there, and then it goes 6 months later, and I'm like, well, what? How would he have survived that to be then tortured by bees?
6 months later, he's still getting stung by bees, and they're still providing him with EpiPens.
Although I have to wonder. I don't know if this is just like this is too loose of a connection to make, but I have to wonder if like the end of this like inspired Get Out a little bit, because that's the kind of vibe I got at the end. Like,
Wait,
just
that was 6 months later.
yeah,
I didn't see that.
yeah, it came up in big words on the middle of the screen.
Our version didn't have that.
John watched an alternate version.
Oh, okay, maybe it just didn't tell you then. But yeah,
Yeah.
it was 6 months later when they went to the bar and got James Franco and what's his face.
But can you explain what happened in? Because we just got credits. He burned. The Wicker Man thing fell.
Shouting you bitches and then
Oh
Yeah,
didn't
it fades to black after he says you. It's just it's like it's just burning, and then that's it.
okay, so stop talking and then I'll tell you. Because sorry, not in a rude way, just if anyone's talking you can't hear me. So yeah, it after the thing burns, it falls down, and then it goes 6 months later, and I can't remember where it is, but there's a scene with James Franco and another guy. I can't remember his name, but he's someone you'd recognize. Just at a bar, being like, "Oh, what do you think?" And I don't know if they're supposed to be trying to make you feel like they're doing something different other than trying to pick up women, but that's definitely what they were doing. And then they're like, "Oh yeah, look over there." So they go and sit down, and then Nick Cage's wife is there, and the woman that he kicks against the wall, which makes me think that maybe Dan saw this version as well, unless she's actually in later in the movie. Okay, anyway, and then they just start talking, and what's her name? Willow. Yeah, Willow's like to the other guy, "Do you want to come get some drinks at the bar with me?" And he's like, "Yeah, okay." So they walk off, and then you've got this other girl and the other guy talking, and she's like, "So where are you going after this?" And James Franco's like, "Back to my apartment." And then she goes, "When you leave, will you take me with you?"
Ugh.
Yeah.
But this is another
didn't
problem with
happen.
it. This is another.
Before you carry on,
Go on.
just point out, they also for some reason made a point of James Franco being someone who had just passed to become a police officer.
Oh.
So this is another issue with like the whole motivation of it all, because they've set up this whole thing with the bee cult, there has to have been a point in that relationship where she's like, "Have you got any allergies?" And then she just has to hope that he's allergic to bees.
Like, I did have the thought of being. I wonder if they seek out people who are like allergic to bees, but I think that's just pure happenstance. Like, I don't. I think for okay, it's dumb. Let's go with that first of all, because the fact that literally the only way you find out, I think, is him going, "Oh, why would you do that? I'm allergic," and then walks off. But I like with that extra scene, to me, it's just like they go out and have contingency plans in case the harvest doesn't go well. So like 8 years down the like, it makes you wonder because adding that extra bit. Now that I know that none of you saw that, like the only good part about it is that it gave me slight Get Out vibes, and I was like, oh yeah, that was a good movie. To be fair, I didn't hate this movie. I don't think it's awful. It has a lot wrong with it, but like I think at its core, like it could have been good if they actually tried. But yeah, it's
Yeah,
like
it could have.
it like adding that extra scene just makes you kind of go, so what? Do they send like how periodically do they send women out? Like
Mm.
how many women do they send out at a time? How many like what do they just keep fucking the dude until they get a positive pregnancy test, then they go back and then like they just wait it out, and then if the harvest is fine, I guess the kid lives. Well, the kid was never going to die anyway, but that's the other thing. That whole thing is kind of like breaks the story on its own straight away, because like he gets invited there and it's like, okay, cool, So he goes there, and that's part of their plan. They want him there. They then kill the dude who took him there and sew his mouth shut as like a symbolism thing, which doesn't mean anything and doesn't mean anything. But also, why the whole rigmarole? Like as soon as he's there, they literally all could have just overpowered him and put him. Like I know it wouldn't have been a movie without it, but you know you have to look at motivations and stuff. And it's like, no, I mean literally they could have poisoned any of his food or drink. Like they could have.
They could have got him in his sleep.
Exactly, that's what I was going to say. They could have attacked him in his sleep. They could have done anything, or like Rob was saying, or Alec, I can't remember which.
Interchangeable.
Instead of taking the self-help book, they could have just taken his EpiPen, and then like when he gets stung by a bee, they then like wait for him to pass out or whatever, and then be like, there you go, boom, done, he's ours. So it's like there's a lot of like I don't normally like talking about movies in that way because it's like without these things happening, there wouldn't be a story for the movie to happen. But at the same time, like there's only a certain amount of contrivance you can accept to be like, oh well, it's a movie.
Yeah.
If you're having to do that whole movie, then it's not a good story.
But that's exactly the problem with them changing the premise from religion to it being what it is. Because in the original, it completely makes sense that he'd have to hang around for a bit because they have to wait for this ceremony before they sacrifice him. Whereas in this, it's just I don't understand what the time pressure was. And I also think like it shows in that end scene how they shot themselves in the foot by changing the premise, because in the original there's a bit where like it's more or less the two religions are kind of like facing off with one another. And that scene in the original where so the policeman's going like, oh, sacrificing me isn't going to change anything, like it's going to do nothing for your crops. And then Lord Summerisle is like, but I know it will, because he's got that whole religion behind him. You're kind of going like, shit, like this is like no matter what happens now, he's going on that Wicker Man, like, and it's actually quite scary because of that. And then it ends with the two of them basically singing to one another, like one singing a pagan song and then the other singing a Christian song, and they're both trying to use their religion to get themselves out of the situation that they're in. And that's really cool. But then in the remake, it's just Nicolas Cage going, I don't believe this is going to work. And it's like, so?
this is what I mean. Like, I think the beetle in the desk and the crow in the desk thing is a really good sort of just like little microcosm of like how these two movies are like fucking at odds with each other. Because I was like, because I think like with the original, that ending bit where they're both kind of singing at the sky and stuff, I think isn't like I don't think it's the moment they thought it was going to age into 50 years down the line, but like now is sort of what I read from it was it's a Christian and a pagan and they're both about as deluded as each other, both singing to their gods for salvation, and it's just an empty like godless sky, and like it's like I don't know, it's just this really big existential kind of ending thing, but then just replacing it and going like, yeah, this is what people want from a Wicker Man film, let's include some torture. And it's like, oh yeah, okay, bee hat, bring in the bee hat. It's like
I got an idea. Just think about this. It's a completely different film, but imagine you keep the kind of religion. No, just imagine you keep the religion aspect, but Nicolas Cage comes in as the Christian guy, and everyone else is with the cult of Cthulhu. I mean, that would be messed up.
That's one of the things about it. Like again, one of the million threads they lay down but never actually go with is the fact that he's taking medication for something. We don't know what it is. Like the way they lay it out from the start, it makes you feel like it's because of the like car explosion thingy. But clearly, like later on, you're like, oh no, there's something else going on here. But like, it does feel very like Lovecraftian for a while, and then they don't do anything with it. Like it like most other things in the movie, it literally means nothing by the end of it, and you're just like, I mean, but what was the point? You did all that setup, and like, why?
Yeah.
I think that goes into it though, because like the original one is like about pagans and stuff, and they're actually doing like pagan rituals and actual pagan reliefs, and it's like there's not a fucking bee worship like fucking religion. You just like made that up, and then you've gone, oh okay, like I don't know. It's just really not as strong, and like the fact that he's like Nicolas Cage is also not like Christian or anything. Like that completely just hamstrings the entire.
Well, I feel like it could work like that because, you know, in modern times, an atheist against religion is like a more common example. So I don't think it can't work. I just don't think they did anything to make it work.
Yeah.
I don't know why they
That's a good
didn't
way
do
to put
that.
it.
'Cause that could have been a really powerful remake if well, not well, yeah. I mean, even if you had them all as pagans still, but it was an atheist going there, that could still work. Like, you didn't need to be a Christian for it to be relevant.
Well,
Yeah.
this is the thing. That's why in the original, like Howie is like kind of the perfect sacrifice because he's like an adult virgin because of his like belief in that. Sorry, John. I'll let you just get that in while I'm not talking.
I just sang the start of a song.
Okay. But like that, I think that's kind of nice where you have like kind of like the stuffy Scottish policeman, and he's going like to like just pagans. And he's going like, "Put your tits away! Stop talking about willies." And I think like that's what kind of makes the original like so strong. So I'm not against like the whole atheist thing, but I do think that was what made it kind of strong in the original as well. Like John said, it would be a decent concept, but if you put the work in.
Yeah.
Did you know they lost money on this film as well?
No way! You know,
Oh.
200 grand. 200 grand. That's what they lost.
I mean,
Well,
yes,
they made about 15 quid on me.
Yeah.
they probably paid Cage too much so they could buy more castles.
It does read like it's kind of a sort of more extreme version of From Dusk Till Dawn, because you know in From Dusk Till Dawn you've got that bit where it's like, yeah, Quentin Tarantino put the pen down there and Robert Rodriguez picked it up. Like it's kind of like that, but it's as if, I don't know, somebody thought they were being really clever and they were like, yeah, we're going to set this up, we're going to set that up, and it's all going to come together and it's going to be brilliant. And then somebody else was like, no man, you've got a week to finish this, and he was like, shit.
I think Lich.
That's what happened with Wolverine film, the first one.
I'm not
We don't
surprised.
talk about that.
I was going to say there was a scene that didn't really make any sense, was when he rode up on the bike and they was putting the
Just
things
one?
on. Well, that was the main one that kind of thinking like, what the fuck? He helps the bloke and it falls down and he just kind of walks away and gets on the bike. I'm like,
I mean, no, that's because like he put the bike down to help him, then he like moved him out of the way, and then just from the reaction of the guy, he was like, okay, I'm just gonna carry on with what I was doing then. I tell you what doesn't make sense about that scene is that's like, I don't know if he's borrowed that bike or what, but that, as far as we're concerned, is his bike, and he happily chucks it on the ground. But later on, when he commandeers Sister Rose's bike, he just carefully places it on the side because it's not his.
Oh, Sister Rose as well. Like fucking, like she, like he, like, why, like
you take it off the island.
No, that's not.
I don't know what this was.
Oh,
but he stopped. He's like yelling at her for talking about willies to the kids, and then he goes like about 10 feet down the road, and he finds the same actress, and he's like, "I just didn't I just talk to you?" And she's like, "No, you didn't." And he goes, "Oh." He just wanders off. I was like, "What the fuck was that?"
oh yeah. What was the thing about twins? I actually know what they were trying to set up there. There were lots of lookalikes and quite a few twins, but I didn't get the significance.
I think it's about the inbreeding.
Well, that was the thing. So I couldn't tell whether they were going for an incest angle or a magic angle.
And more of them. That's more
we don't know.
down and not actually using them, because like they had people looking the same, which was like, okay, so either it's because, I mean, well, that's the thing, like the blind women, they were clearly like supposed to be like the old I can't remember their names, but the three like
Iggy Pops.
The you know, like in the Greek mythology, the like the three women,
the three witches of Brokeback Combs or something like that.
Okay, well, that just makes me think of Witcher 3. So,
That's
It's the
what I'm thinking
fates.
about.
yeah,
The fates is what you're talking.
like that's as far as I'm concerned. I'm sure there's probably other material that they pulled from for it, but as far as I'm concerned, that was clearly what they were going for. Like, even when he appears, that they're like, he has arrived or something like that, and it's like, okay. But then again, yeah, they don't do anything with it. Like, there's the twin thing, there's the inbred thing, there's there's clearly like the Lovecraftian sort of mystic kind of vibe to it sometimes, and yeah, they don't like, I imagine, because Rob, you mentioned Dusk Till Dawn, where like you can see when one person put down the pen and the other one picked it up. I imagine this being the same scenario, except the other one picks it up, and then the first guy's fucked off and hasn't told him where he was going to finish any of it, and he's like, "Oh shit, I guess I'll go with the bees."
Yeah, and he's just like, I haven't got time to read the first half. I'm sure it's about bees.
Bee
Oh,
cult
man.
gotta be about bees.
I just
Also,
I just
they never really, huh?
oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say, like, they never really, like, because we're saying bee cult, but they never really actually like explain anything about it. Like, we don't get any information really to show that it's bees they worship as such. Like, obviously we see certain things, like, one of the women just laying there being covered in bees, and clearly like the like you were saying, the clear sort of factions of like the worker bees and then like the higher ups and the queen bee and stuff like that. But we never actually learn anything about the cult itself other than that they do a ritual thing.
Look, they've got something in a sack, in a bleeding sack, and they go, "Oh," and they don't show you what's in it.
Well,
that annoyed me.
It was really funny because they're like, "Oh, and take a look," and then I was like, "Well, they're gonna scare him," and that's exactly what they did. But then he still didn't look, and I was like, "Well, hang on, you're a police officer, and there's a sack bleeding. Fucking check it."
Yeah, that
No,
whole
they went like that.
Exactly.
that whole thing, I was checked out at that point because I was like, you're a police officer. You've just come to an island to find a missing girl. You've seen a bleeding sack, and your assumption is that it's a shark. Like, what?
I guess from playing devil's advocate, you can be like, well, the girl's missing, and you're going to the place where they both lived. Like, obviously, they're not going to have just taken. Like, I doubt. Fair enough, as a police officer, you have to like every eventuality kind of thing. But I doubt that would have been the first thing in his head. But still, like, if there's a sack bleeding in front of you, you check it.
Yeah.
Like, even if you're not a police officer.
There was a few moments like that. Like, there was another one when he was trying to get to the island, and he goes to the guy with the plane, and he's like, "Can you take me over there?" And he's like, "No, I can't. I can't risk my livelihood. I'm gonna have to say no." And then he's like, "Well, I'll give you $150." And the guy's like, "All right then."
Yeah, I didn't really get that either. That's like
Exactly. That made no sense. And
Like-
then what was it? I can't remember thinking throughout the whole film that you would be a crap detective. You should not go for detective because he hadn't yet gone for detective, but that's what he was going to do next in his career. I was just thinking, you suck. Just do some other job, please. Hey, you're a jerk.
That's again like another thing that didn't matter. Like, why did we need that scene with him and that female police officer? Like, because it made you feel like maybe they had a relationship or something. Never did anything with that. They mentioned going, like, they mentioned the fact that he might resign or that he might go for detective. They don't do anything with that. Like, everything about it's weird, and like you just said, Rob, that scene with the guy like makes no sense on several levels, because it's like, one, why would the guy be like, I'm not going to risk my livelihood? Oh, a bit of money, sure. But also, two, I feel like anyone who has regular contact with them, while they probably wouldn't like clue him in on stuff, I feel like just the vibe there would probably tell you that you just don't mess with him, really.
Yeah.
But also, he's there to get killed, basically. But like, it's also he's the one ferrying resources to them from the mainland. So the fact that they just murder him for doing something that they wanted him to do. They wanted Nicolas Cage on the island. He brought them to the island, and then they're just like, "Oh, fuck, what are you bringing from the mainland? We'll just murder you and stitch your mouth shut." And it's like, it doesn't make sense on any fucking level.
Maybe that's the whole point. Maybe he was supposed to make his way there like differently, like to row a boat or something. And the reason that they did the thing with like pretend to sacrifice the girl was because he got there fucking early and they weren't ready to do the ritual yet.
Maybe.
He-
I mean, I did half expect him to go when he gave him the cash to go, look, I know someone who's got a boat like down there. If you sort him out, he'll let you borrow his boat. But I ain't getting involved. You ain't heard it from me. But he flew him. I was like, this is
Thing,
Mm.
like
so
it
dumb.
just been like, oh, I mean, I'm not taking you, but I can rent you that boat. Like even just
Yeah.
that,
Yeah,
fine.
that would make more
Exactly.
sense.
It's like regardless of what that guy knew, he knew enough that not to fuck with him. That's like what I get from like his dialogue. And the fact that he's just gone, I'm not fucking with those guys. These dudes are crazy. And then Nick Cage goes, oh, I'll give you 150. And he goes, oh. And it's like, so like when I was on security, someone tried to bribe me so they could go and like nick some beer. And they were like, are you like corruptible? And I was like, what are you offering exactly? And he's like, 20. And I was like, 20 is really not fucking enough to like whatever like this is not enough to forsake like months of income. Like a 20, fuck off.
Exactly.
Like, and it's like whatever this guy is, this the sea captain is making, 150 could not be enough to go, yeah, I'll fuck with these guys, no worry.
Yeah.
It's like,
Exactly.
if you know
You need to
like
take that
enough to
money
know not to
and then
fuck with
F
them,
off.
150 shits.
Yeah,
this
he
is-
needs thousands to like get that money and then F off and get a new job.
And this is another thing as well. So in the original, the policeman shows up in like a police plane and he's the pilot. And it's like, yeah, believable. There probably is a police plane. And that's it. You don't have to think about it anymore. But then in this, they've just, I think they've literally created another character just so that they can show him with his mouth sewn shut, which also meant nothing.
Just so they can kill him.
Yeah.
Yeah, no hands.
Yeah.
They like his whole thing is that he's not going to do it, and then he gets given money and he does it, and then like it's supposed to be a symbolism thing, like they sew his mouth shut because he like he spoke when he shouldn't have, but they also did the Wicker Man arm things to him, but also who the fuck cares? Who are you? Like matter to the story at all. No one gives a shit. Like let's put it this way: even Nicolas Cage in the movie, in character, sees that your boat has been abandoned, your boat ship plane thing, whatever, and your radio's been destroyed. He doesn't fucking care. Like, and also like I thought of this while you guys were talking as well. When we're considering the fact that they need him alive, they trapped him in water
Where he could have drowned very easily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
or got like hypothermia or anything. Like obviously because it was all
Sepsis.
obviously because it was all part of the plan, she came back and like got him out, and it was probably her who fucking did it in the first place. Um, but like again, it's one of those things where if there was one or two contrivances to be like, oh, it's a movie, this is to make the story like go forward, fine. But it's like, but why did you do that? Like I know you were wasting time because I guess the ritual must be done on a specific day or whatever, probably. Um, because like I guess they did specify it's like the day of death and rebirth or whatever. So like they did set that up, but the ways in which they delay him like just don't make sense.
Mm.
Yeah, he could have really easily been killed. Like even him going through like the bee thing, like Emmanuel was saying earlier, he literally has to notice he's going into the bee thing and then walk the other way to not get into the bee thing. Following him with the scene, he is like running toward every single beehive. Like he runs toward a beehive and goes, "Oh fuck!" Changes direction to another beehive until he gets like stung so much. Like, why are you going toward every other beehive? Just run the other fucking way.
I mean, I guess to be fair, in that scenario, like I don't think it's like that unbelievable that someone who is panicking would not go in the best direction. Like I don't, out of all the things that this film does wrong, I don't think that's that bad. And like,
Yeah.
you could argue that him going there in the first place, it depends because like I don't really know how like beehives work exactly. Like, I don't know if like when you actually have like a sort of man-controlled area like that, if they literally just stay inside the thing until they're taken out and moved, or what. Like, so if the assumption is that they're generally contained, then even if you got an allergy, I guess it's not that unlikely, but still, it's dumb, and he shouldn't have had an allergy in the first place. But
It's so fucking.
I think it's
dumb.
that weird
I got
run into the like beehives, being like fuck, fuck, fuck.
I got a few things to say about I think all of that. The first one I was going to comment about what you were saying first, John, about how he really didn't care. That later he's running around like looking for Willow or whatever. Like and it's just like he sees the plane boat thing which is sunk. He's just like it just keeps going. It's like the guy's definitely. But anyway, besides that point, so I think the whole B scene, like, so at first, and maybe it might have been different in the director's cut. So bear in mind, I might have seen it slightly differently. But he knocked something over first, and then he's kind of like, oh, but then they have him walk again into the kind of B thing when he already knocked something over. And then he gets kind of like stung or whatever, and then he goes, and runs. So it's like, wait. I get that you panicked and you ran, but before you even got stung or panicked, you knocked it over and thought it was a good idea to walk into a field of bees.
The
But
honeycomb
also,
path as well.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm not gonna knock this because it's I'm not trying to make this too realistic. But in real life, if that was actually a bee farm, unless he actually like knocked against all the other beehives, they wouldn't have come out and stung him unless they feel threatened. Like unless they're actually attacked, those type of bees don't actually attack back. But I'm not trying to think about this in a realistic way, so that's just information, really.
Yeah.
But also,
Probably.
bees aren't really good for pouring either. So
yeah, poor bees into bloody hell.
That's why you get CGI bees. Just to...
I gotta say that's another thing where what I was thinking sort of through the whole thing is that as a premise for a horror film, like bees are actually, well, I think bees are quite friendly as an insect. Like, I mean, I know they can sting you, but like it's well.
They literally have to for a bee to activate their sting. A bee has to remove its stomach. So I think that the bee cult really should have like committed to this, and he should have been chased by women just taking their stomach out and just chasing them with their butts, like just this is a horror.
Oh man.
Oh, folks.
I was one of the scenes that I enjoyed the most was towards the end where Nicolas Cage is going from house to house and he's kind of just like banging on the doors, running, banging on another door, running. And I kind of thought like next year's themed round, rather than bad movie round, it should be Nicolas Cage running, because that I loved it.
He's so bad at running as well. He's
But it's the fact he goes in the houses and they're like, oh, like, where is she? And they're like fuck off out of my house. It's like, no, but tell me. And he goes in the room and the girl falls out of the wardrobe and they're laughing at him. He fucking just walks out like really confused, like, what the fuck?
This is something. There's so much of sort of like watching the original, you kind of see all that kind of the crumbs of what they're trying to imitate, and it's like, oh yeah, you actually can't just airlift this movie and take away like the character, the background, the context, the geographical setting, the time period. You can't just airlift that and drop it in another one and have it work in the same way. Because it's like even the teacher, like Ben said, the classroom scene is pretty much word for word the same. But like, but when Nick Cage is going like, you're all a bunch of liars, and it is fucking funny to think that a modern cop is going to be saying that to a bunch of kids and just going like, you're all liars and you're the biggest liar of them all. But then in like the Edward Woodward one, he's a stuffy Scottish policeman. He's like trying to kind of handle it with like kiddie mittens, and he's going like, "You're all liars, and you're the biggest liar of them all." And it's like, yeah, I really believe this guy is trying to do it, but like, it doesn't make sense coming out of Nicolas Cage. It just doesn't.
Yeah, the 70s versus like the noughties makes a hell of a difference, doesn't it? It's just that time period, it gives a lot of benefit of the doubt kind of thing.
I was going to say what got me the most is the fact that when he held his badge out and it said highway patrolman, and I was like, no, you ain't got no credibility.
Oh my goodness. I forgot
This is
about
another
that.
thing though, because Howie going around the original island and he's like knocking down doors and stuff. It's obviously an island that's under jurisdiction of like Scotland and that. So he does have jurisdiction to do it. But Nicolas Cage is going around, he's like, I'm going to knock down every door, I'm going to search every house, and they're like, you're a California highway man, and he's like, yeah, and they're like, this is Washington. What are you doing? What are you doing? And like he's going like, I don't need anyone's fucking permission, mate. And I'm like, you do. Howie doesn't. You do.
What I don't really get is, I was going to say, what I don't get is they've got a tavern, even though they don't have visitors. So he's like, they got this big thing and he stays there. It's like, but they don't have visitors and they don't want people. Why would you have a tavern?
You don't just have a tavern for visitors.
I know, but it's like
also appearance, like in case anyone ever comes there, like easy.
Yeah, this might be a regular thing for them, like a kind of backup plan for stuff.
I gotta say, a highlight of the original is when Howie goes into the pub that he's going to be staying in and everything, and he's like, I like a room and all that, and like goes like, oh, I sort a room for you, and then he's Irish now, and like and he like goes, oh, me lovely daughter Willow will come and take you to your room. And then the whole pub starts singing about like a song about the landlord's daughter being a fucking slut. and everyone's in the pubs going like, wee! And Howie's just going like, and he's like, absolutely fucking outraged. And I was pissing my pants. I thought it was hilarious.
That sounds funny.
But
What's the last thing you said, John? I didn't hear it.
Like,
just before Alex first.
Don't ask me that. You need to ask me straight away. I don't fucking remember.
Okay, cool.
That scene there, that's another bit where you can compare the original and the remake, and it highlights how ridiculous the remake is. Because in the original, you've got this pub full of people doing like very unchristian things, and you've got this like completely like just strict, stiff Christian, like stood in the corner of the room going like, this is terrible, these people are awful. And then he just snaps and goes, I'm a policeman, and he like announces it to everyone. And then in the remake, Nicolas Cage kills a bee and then sort of shrugs it off and goes, right, everyone needs to know I'm a policeman.
Well, again, in the original, they're all singing, and then Howie has to like actually bang his wallet on the bar to make people shut up and listen to him. Whereas in the Nicolas Cage one, no one's talking, and he just goes bang, 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 bang. And it's like, you didn't.
Yeah. The whole time, it really annoyed me that, like, and I guess that was one of the things they were trying to go for, but he just seems like a jerk the whole freaking time, and it pisses me off. I'm just like, I'm not interested in watching a really bad acting jerk for the whole length of this film. Can you just stop it, please?
This is what I'm getting at with the original, because as an outraged Christian, how he makes like way more sense. But like, because Nicolas Cage doesn't have that like religious angle, him going and then just doing these really big things that like an outraged person would do, but without the outrage, just makes him look a prick.
That's the thing, isn't it? Because it just naturally makes sense for like this ultra Christian guy to go to a pagan island and just like be completely out of his element, and then yeah, they just replace that with some guy who's allergic to bees wandering around an island full of bees going, I'll be dead in the cold ground before I recognise bees.
Dang bee.
Oh my
Just had to
goodness.
sneak that Simpsons reference in.
I think I have to lower my score even lower. It's just so bad. Oh my God. Yeah, I'm gonna do that.
How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned?
And then another good comparison as well is that in the original, so you know the scene that I linked earlier where they're dancing around the maypole and the guy's singing and then it goes into the classroom scene. So in that you've got the maypole, and obviously like the maypole's very active, like they're all dancing and singing around it, and then in the background there's like a sort of like semi-demolished church, and it's just like completely ruined. Like there's like one wall standing, and yeah, just having that like maypole that's like very active and very alive in front of a church that's like in complete disrepair, I think that's actually quite powerful. And so I was watching the remake trying to see if they'd like tried to do anything like that, and the only thing that I could find was an empty bottle of honey.
Meta.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Why? Because he says, why is it shot ball and it's like. Yeah.
Oh, it's so bad. He like takes an empty bottle and he's like, "No honey, mate."
What got me was the bit where they open the mead. They open the mead and let it fly on the floor. It's like you've got no honey and you just wasted it all.
Yeah, that was I really didn't get that. But Rob, you was basically saying that they have all that, but they basically had like an empty honey bottle.
Well, it's just like that seemed to be the only visualization of like any kind of conflict, is that there was an empty honey bottle. Whereas like the first was really clever in trying to show like the two kind of opposing religions of like one being very active and one being dead on that island. And it's just
Oh, I get what you mean. This is yes, we don't milk our bees basically for honey. That's what I got. I was like, okay, that's why you got it from the plane guy that you killed. Okay, cool. I don't understand why any of this. I don't care anymore. Whatever.
Does that mean they buy the honey for the mead? Because the same thing, right? They make mead from honey, so it's like I didn't really understand why they just chucked it on the ground and went, "Hey, let's dance." It's like you're having a problem with honey harvest, or
Well, that's another thing with the original, because the original has like that. There's a part of the ritual is that they take a barrel of booze and they like smack an axe into it and let it drain into the ocean, and it's a sacrifice. But they kind of don't establish that it's a proper pagan religion. So like,
yeah, it's like they kind of wanted to make something, but they didn't really think of that.
Can I just say, Christopher Lee's character is. The distinction I'm gonna do is Christopher Lee's character is Summer Isle, and then the bad guy in this one is Summer's Isle because it sounds worse. Like Summer Isle is so much more like affable and just like a nice guy, because like there's a bit. Because like when he's actually going to confront him, how he's like he sees he sees like a bunch of naked girls and they're just like jumping over flames, and that is like a fertility ritual. And he comes in, he's like, I won't do the accent, but he's like, what the fuck is this? And then Christopher Lee's like, oh, it's a fertility ritual, you know, it's just, you know, it's you know, they're going to like the fire god to kind of make them more, you know, whatever. And then how he's like, naked? And he's just like, well, it's a lot more dangerous to jump over fire with your clothes on, isn't it? He just says it so nicely and so just like, duh. But like Christopher Lee's character is so much more like just, I don't know, you can kind of see it like a lot easier. I'm gonna become a pagan, basically. But like he has like a couple of little like just monologues and stuff, and like he's going like, yeah, I the animals have it like way better. They don't like ever like worry about some guy who died like 2,000 years ago. They don't ever worry about being respectable or anything. I could definitely see myself. And you get like his backstory and stuff, and then you get to Summer's Isle, and you go like, "What's with you?" And she's like, "Bees are great, and I'm evil." And it's like, oh,
basically. Like the random man in the bed with all this. There's bits.
Oh
there that's
yeah.
like, why? What was it?
Just
supposed
why?
to be
He just kind of
regret?
like, oh, sorry, I forgot it was a film. You're all, yeah, you're just evil, I guess. Fine.
It's Anyway.
Yeah. As I said, the best bit is the bit when they just burn him in the Wicker Man. It's like, yep.
Oh, my
Yeah.
highlight was definitely when he wears the bear suit and punches the nun. Like that's it was just because it was so out of nowhere. Like it's another scene where he's jogging, so yeah, that also contributed to my my entertainment value from it. But he just sort of like jogs off, and then she's like 6 foot away from him, and he kind of diverts slightly, gets on the back foot, punches her, and then carries on. It's just so well choreographed.
Like in this film context, like why would that character be running at her? Like like she says, "Oh, what do you want?" And he just goes smack. It's like, wouldn't you be concerned that this woman who doesn't look like she's much of a runner gonna fucking run at you?
You bitchy bitch.
No, it's just. But you'd have a different kind of like movement, right? She'd be quite kind of ploddy as such.
Dan,
What?
Dan, you're overthinking this. She was already there at the thing, so they knew it wasn't her.
It's almost like Nick Cage's character was also not a very good actor.
Exactly. His highway patrolman badge. It's like I would have gone, what the fuck do you want?
Oh, sorry. I just as a little side note, I really liked when Nick Cage hears like more names, and he goes, "Oh yeah, more plants." It's like,
Oh man, oh god, I laughed so hard at that because it was after like because so many funny things happened in that scene. Because at first you've got the whole of the class just chanting phallic symbol, and that was already funny. And then you hear Nicolas Cage laugh off screen, and that's really funny as well. And then the bird flies out of the desk, and then he basically says what the audience is thinking, where you're just like, what, why? and then all of that happens, and I'm already like in tears at this point. And then then he asks what her name is. She says Rose, and he's like, another plant. So ridiculous.
Yeah. So I gave 2 for impact because it was so bad. It won't. I don't think it will ever leave me. So I was just like, I can't give it a 1 because I can't forget it.
Depending on how you look at it, it should probably get a 10 just for the meme.
Well, so this is something that I thought actually.
I didn't know the meme actually.
When I was scoring it, I was like, I feel like I should give this quite a hefty score for impact given the memes that it's given us. But then I was thinking about it, and I was like, no, because the memes are as funny without the rest of the film, so I don't think I should give it all credit as a whole.
Now that you know that one of the main memes isn't even in one of the versions of the film.
Yeah.
But I find it strange that the director's cut cuts out that bit that John was talking about, where they meet the different people.
yeah, that is weird.
Yeah.
It's probably because they very rightfully went, "You had me at James Franco," and then I go, "No, none of that." No, we've got James Franco to come do a scene. No, fuck that scene. It's got James Franco in it. I will not support it.
This is a problem with the film. Like, I checked out so early that listening to John talk about it, and then he mentioned James Franco, I was like, James Franco's in it?
I thought he'd accidentally watched The Disaster Artist. I was like, hang on.
I was like, are we talking about the same film, or have I just completely lost my mind?
I feel like you missed the part where I said that it was a different version of the film that probably none of you watched.
Yeah, but I also checked out quite early, so I could have been watching the same film.
Literally the very last scene in the film, so I feel like if you'd seen James Franco, you'd have remembered seeing it.
This is brilliant. I love that John's gone, I think I've watched a different version, and then Pat's gone, you might have. I can't remember.
I might have watched a different version. I think for impact, like I really don't think they realised how fucking funny the little jumps are. Because when he's like,
Yeah.
I couldn't help but think of ASDF movie, you know, like the character, and he's like, I like trains, and like he's on the barge and he sees the girl and he's like, mysterious young girl, and then she gets hit by a truck. But then like it happens so many times, it just goes and it just gets hit by a truck again. And then he's like falling asleep on the little pier. And he like goes underwater to go and catch her, and he wakes up and he goes, oh no. And then he wakes up and the corpse is in his arms and he goes, ah! And I was absolutely fucking dying every time.
That was actually one of the best acted scenes by him.
That was actually one of the scenes. So I read a quote from Nicolas Cage, and he was basically trying to pass the movie off as being like purposely absurd. Like he was trying to say that it was meant to be absurd humor, and that's why it's so stupid. And I absolutely don't believe him. But I also think of that scene, and I'm kind of like, well, they must have had an inkling, like because I don't know how you could have done that scene and then thought, yeah, that's a serious bit of filmmaking.
Someone wrote it and went, this is going to be very sad. He wasn't expecting the girl on the boat to get hit by a truck.
Maybe it would have been better if they went for a black comedy aspect and made it. I don't know if anyone's seen it, but has anyone here seen A Tale of the Caterpillars?
No.
Oh, what?
That was our IT teacher, wasn't it?
I was the first person to laugh at that, and I don't even get the fucking joke.
His name was Zach.
Sorry, John. John, did you say you saw it or no?
Say anything.
Okay.
Takes advantage of this. He knows if you're talking, then he can just say what he wants, and we won't hear him. So he's just saying what he wants. He's gonna bald.
But basically, in that film, you have a lot of death, but it's so absurdly ridiculous and funny. The way people die and the way people, like the comedy in it. They if they wanted to, they could have gone that way with this, but obviously, they were. Like they don't. In Tell Us Caterpillars, one of this. If you ever get the chance, maybe I'll recommend it one time. But it's people break out in song and dance when people die sometimes. It's just ridiculous. But say that the Korean remake has less musical numbers, but it's still funny. Like
if we needed a fucking Emmanuel quote just to frame there. The Korean remake has less musicals, but it's still really funny. Sorry.
Ben, did you say you were watching the original just before the call?
Yes, I was.
Did you watch it with your mum and dad?
Yeah.
Did they watch the remake?
No, they didn't.
Oh, I would have loved to have heard like what they thought of it.
I think it was just. I think the reputation of the remake kind of like sordid, like the anticipation of seeing the film. I think in a lot of ways, because I think because they saw it when it came out in like it must have been, what year was it, like 77 or something?
73, I think it was.
Yeah, and
73. Yeah.
Because it's like not a favorite, but it's just like had such an impact when it came out. It's just like hadn't seen anything like it because it was because it's a British movie and it's British to the core because it's like the style of it is just very you can't really replicate it. And there was, like you were saying earlier, it's like there was a reason to do a good American remake because there's a lot of like Middle America has this like strange, like, you know, what's the word? They've got the little bubbles and like they're stuck in the past, and I think there's
isolated.
Yeah,
like the Amish kind of thing.
The Amish, yeah, that's what I was thinking. It has a lot of worth doing something with that kind of thing, but they didn't really slant into that well at all. They kind of missed that angle entirely.
Yeah, well, that's something that could have
horrible
worked
situation.
actually. Like if they did a story of like somebody from the city coming into an Amish community, that could have been really good as well.
Mm.
No, because you've got them like really extreme Christian people that are like really, really against like
Anything.
gay people. You know the ones with the signs.
Okay, you have lots
With
of
everything.
extreme ones. You've got extreme snake Christian people.
Snake.
You've got extreme.
Snake.
Yeah, like there's a sect of churches at some places in America where you have to part of it is like, is it the preacher or some of the kind of higher people in the church? Every few months they would get bitten by a poisonous snake, and then if they survive, they're saved by the Lord, but most of them die. So, so they end up in
Obviously.
hospital.
No, that sounds like a fucking film.
Even that would have
It
worked.
was
To
in
be
an
fair,
episode
like
of Constantine, actually, just to say.
even if you had like that kind of cult, and then Nicolas Cage is just going, "You keep killing each other," like that would have been better than what.
That doesn't make any sense. Why?
It doesn't.
Oh my god.
Um,
But yeah, I do
Yeah.
think they missed a chance with this, because like you were saying, Ben, like I think
Mhm.
the original it kind of takes that old kind of like that old sort of fashioned sort of Englishness, and you do have that in America as well. So
Yeah.
I don't know why they didn't try and play on that even.
yeah.
I think what you're like that would have been like a really good thing to try and like introduce, and it's just kind of like the idea that they went, let's make this into a cartoonish B cult, and it's like you could have made it the army. just something kind of close
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah. And this, yeah. Sorry.
As I say, something that makes a bit more sense than just be with ladies.
Definitely. They're so, like I think you said at the beginning, Rob, they're so, or someone else might have said it, but they put down so many like plot points or whatever it is, like potential ways they could have gone. Didn't follow any of them that it made any sense and went with these. And there was so much potential there. They could have gone so many ways with this remake. They really could have gone the slow burner, tenseful thriller route. They could have actually lent into the kind of investigative horror part. They could. It's just so annoying.
I think at very least they could have done something where like Nicolas Cage was slowly piecing things together and sort of almost like teaching you about the island as he went, but he just ignored everything other than that they were all named after plants. He noticed that a few of them were twins. He didn't follow up on that. Loads of people mentioned Sister Summerall, and he kept just being like, "All right, I'll get to her, I suppose." At what point are you going to go? She might be important. I should find her.
I love that little line of dialogue when he goes, "Summer's Isle. That name keeps coming up, doesn't it?" I'm like, "That's the name of the island you are on. Yes, it will keep coming up."
Like when they kept mentioning Sister Summer's Isle, I was assuming that it was going to turn out to be like that she's not a person, like it's the island kind of thing.
Same, Camilla as well.
And then they didn't, and it was just a woman who apparently had watched Braveheart and
everything Pat could have been.
Don't bring Braveheart into this shit.
Hey, look. As soon as I saw it, I was like, "Oh fuck, Mel Gibson."
Oh yeah, what was Mel Gibson's part in this?
That was the joke.
No. You said something about Mel Gibson being in this.
No,
in the chat.
That she painted her face. That was it.
Oh!
Yes, like Mel Gibson in Braveheart.
Sorry, I didn't realise James Franco was in it as well. And I was like, fuck, was Mel Gibson the other cop?
Oh, it was Lethal Weapon.
Yeah.
Oh god.
I'm
This,
too old for this shit.
this was all going on while they were like blowing shit up in the background.
To be fair, that would have improved it if like the whole film happened and you just had Danny Glover in the background going like, "Fucking hell."
Oh man, yeah, it would have. It would have.
I know.
It's it's possibly the biggest fucking argument against remakes, and it's just kind of like just triple distill the original down and make it like just add none of the context. And you know, just fucking just make it up, like whatever.
But at least with like a lot of remakes, even when they're bad, you can tell they tried to make some effort. They just made a bad kind of film, a bad remake where they kind of really tripped on whatever it was or focused too much on something. This film failed at everything so badly.
And
You don't even know how it got approved.
also, another thing I didn't really get was the fact that she managed to get his gun and take the bullets out without him noticing that the gun.
I was going to mention that earlier, but I kept getting talked over, and then I thought it was being.
Because like his gun never leaves him, right? You never see it leave his body at all. And then he goes to shoot, and he's like, "Wait a minute," and she just chucks the bullets on the floor. I'm like, but
this is the thing. Like, it's again something they set up that they didn't use. Well, they like kind of did, but not in the correct way. Is that they had him wake up from getting stung by bees and immediately fully check his gun and like see that the bullets are there, the gun's in working order, fine. And then yeah, like you say, later on, his ex is just like, "Oh, whoops, your bullets," and it's like, but when did you do that? Like, when did you have the time to take his gun, remove the magazine, flick out all of the bullets, but keep them, put the magazine back in the holster, and he didn't notice?
does he actually see it? Does he see her after wakes up?
Yeah, he sees her, but I, apart from maybe them hugging or him shouting at her, like I don't see any point in time where she'd even been close enough to consider that. Like you could argue that someone else might have done it and they just gave it to her for effect. But again, apart from the woman he literally fought with, no one was close enough to him to do that. And again, there was no time for that to happen. So it's like it's another one of those elements that could have possibly been like a mystical kind of thing if they wanted it to, but they never went anywhere with the mysticism. Like they just sort of left that undertone there and then just went, but bees though.
You know what they should have done to make it much better? They should have
Not made it.
No, that as well. What he should have done is he should have shot the two twins like typical Cage fashion. He just gets really annoyed with them and he's just like, "Shut the fuck up, bang bang," and then someone just runs in and tackles him.
Well, that's the thing. Like that probably would have been more impactful if he'd actually like
shot someone.
But then, like, they could go one of two ways from there. Like, he could have shot one of them or multiple of them. But you know, it would have just been like they could have just had the men going after him. Because while I think it was mostly men going after him, it wasn't just men. But they could have easily just made that a worker bee thing, where like they don't care. They'll sacrifice as many as necessary, and there's more than enough of them to overwhelm him either before he finishes the clip or there's more than he has a clip anyway, or they could have had him shoot like Summer's Isle and then done the fucking Lovecraftian thing of either her just getting back up without a problem or you just see like bees come out of her or something. Like they should have just gone like ridiculous with it rather than the weird half-assed remake they tried to go for.
They could have had a bee stop the bullet in midair. That would have been hilarious.
A little bee Neo going, no.
No, because that's the thing about the flashbacks when he talks to the cop woman. There's just a bee that comes in, and it flies off. It's like,
well, no, but then she literally turns into bees.
What does she turn into? To be honest, I watched it last night, and yeah,
like
I was tired.
Like the The fire thing can actually kind of make sense for bees because I found out something recently about bees that is pretty fucking terrifying. But so like obviously bees and wasps, while they look different, they have similar colorings. Um, and apparently like wasps use that to like infiltrate like beehives, and they'll like fucking eat the heads off of bees and just have a happy time.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, dude, the insect world is fucking terrifying if you actually look into it. But apparently, what bees discovered they could do, so it's now a defense tactic, is that if they surround like a wasp or a hornet or something and just flap their wings at it, they literally cook it.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, they swarm it. You're right. Yeah.
Wait, so you're saying that they effectively do to wasps what these women did to Nicolas Cage?
That's what I'm saying. Like the fire aspect actually does make sense in connection to the bees. So like they could have actually done something with that. Like they could have even just had a scene earlier on where you just either see it happening like slightly askew, or he's doing research on bees for some fucking reason or other, and like that's on the page. Like don't have to necessarily highlight it, but they could have done something. Like I don't know if that's why they went for the fire, or if it's literally just because they wanted a Wicker Man, and you know fire is generally a sacrificial thing. But it would be pretty cool if that's why they did it.
I feel like I need like educational subtitles with it. So like just at the end, like, did you know bees can actually do this in a roundabout sort of way?
Just in case you didn't think it made sense. Here's a little bit.
I was gonna say they could have had a scene where a load of women are just standing in a circle and they make a fire by just rubbing each other.
Just by going.
They just like rub against each other. They start a fire.
It's just a matter of time, Nicolas Cage.
Oh man. I've just been doing a little bit of research while we've been talking, because I wanted to know like what the people who are behind it had also worked on, and so one of the writers and the director
behind it
did.
Very nefarious.
One of the writers and the director of it said I looked at his filmography. The only thing that I've seen on it is Death at a Funeral, and that's another remake that wasn't as good as the original. The other person who has a writing credit also wrote the original. However, he died 5 years before this came out.
Oh.
Imagine getting a posthumous writing credit and it's this shit.
So he laid out all those threads and then died. Let's just get Cage in and we'll do it from there.
I think the minute someone goes, we're going to do a remake, and our lead actor will be Nicolas Cage, everyone should just abandon ship. Like, just don't do it.
Nicolas Cage is actually a fantastic actor when he wants to be.
I must admit, like, so I gave it 5 for enjoyment, and all of that 5 is for Nicolas Cage.
How to get burned, how to get burned.
How to get burned, how to get burned.
I think that's the thing. Everyone else is just crap all the time. There's not a single there's not a single thing in it. Like I think also like even just kind of having the female police officer, and like I was kind of enjoying their things when she's like, "I'm really happy to see you back," and he just looks at her and goes, and then goes back to talking to his mate. And I was like, even just stuff like that when you're looking back on it, and I was like, oh, he's trying to establish that he's he's not very ready to get back in with like kind of like just ladies in general. Like he's just not ready for another girlfriend or something. And it's just kind of like, again, just not fucking established in any way. And it's just but like it's like he's like bad with women or whatever. But
no, I think you're right. Like I think they were trying to go for a like, oh, he never got over her kind of thing. But the only thing they do is they literally do an exposition dump on you, where he's like, "Oh, it's like, oh, were you
dump?
Was she your ex? Was she your girlfriend?" It's like, no, we were engaged. And then he goes, we were close. You know, fucking shit.
That is such a weird fucking dialogue exchange.
Also, like, they never really give you enough to make you feel like he was really affected by that. But when you consider how old that girl is, and the fact that he doesn't question anything when she says it's his daughter,
Hmm.
it has been long enough for that to make sense. So it's
Mm.
been like 10 years or something. And I'm not saying you can't, I'm not saying there can't be things that go on that affect you that late into your life, but fuck me, like they don't establish anything. So you're just like, what? I don't like, because even the whole way through the movie, like, fair enough, I don't like kids, but before he knows it's his kid, I'm like I know you're investigating, but I don't get why you care so much. And then even when he finds out it's his kid, I'm like, yeah, but you've never seen her. Like, does it matter? Like there has to be a point because, like, okay, jokes aside, it's like there's a point you get to with a character where you have to make it believable that they would put their own life at risk
Yeah.
Hmm.
to do something. And I don't believe that his character would put his life at risk for a random girl. And I also don't believe he'd put his life at risk for a girl that is his apparent daughter that he has no proof of and has not known about and is about 10 years old.
Hmm.
But he does.
Mm.
Yeah. I think also there was my brain has just left that lead there. Don't know where that went. What the fuck was I going to say? There was something. No, I do remember. I do remember. It was when there was like a moment where I was like, I was at peak relating with him, and it was when he's going to her. Every time I turn my head, I see something that doesn't make sense, and I don't get any explanation out of you. And what the fuck is any of this? And like, can you explain it to me? And she starts crying, and she goes, I came back and I heard your baby, and and she just starts crying, and he goes, it's okay, it doesn't matter. And I was like, I've been there because I've had a problem. And then like someone started crying, and I'm like, I don't know what to do now. And like, I just lose all of my fucking brain power because like lady started making her eyes do that thing where they tear up a bit, and I'll go, fuck, no, it's okay, I'm the bad guy.
This is about it. Like, well, two things actually. One, that actress constantly looks like she's about to cry.
Yeah. She did, didn't she? She's like,
While I think she acted quite well, generally speaking, the scenes where she was like, the scenes where after they revealed the plot, where she's supposed to be like, aha, it was a plot all along, just felt less believable from her because she still looked like she was going to cry. So it was like, oh, did she actually care? And it's like, no,
Yeah.
that's just what she looks like. But the other thing, just not even as a police officer, just as a person, if you get to this place and you're like acquiescing to this person's request and trying to find their missing daughter, which is a big fucking deal, if they're like, oh, I can't really tell you much, or like, or not here, fine, okay, like you're under watch, we'll speak later. Then they're speaking later, and they don't really talk about anything. And like, I get his frustration at her when he's shouting at her and stuff, but he never actually does anything to get information. Like, the only thing he does in the movie to get information is break into the doctor's house and like look through her stuff. Other than that, he doesn't really do shit, and that's what's really annoying about the character. Because like, the first thing you would do is grill the fucking mom and give you the information.
Well, he like says to her, he goes like, "You live on this island, you must know something," and she's like, "I just get so emotional," and he goes, "Oh,
well, that's the thing. Like, possible for her to not give him information because you know that it's all part of the plan and they're just stalling him for the ritual date. But it's not believable that he wouldn't try harder to get that information.
Yeah, I think what really made, like, I think both me and Camilla, because with a lot of things like this, we'll keep putting like um Among Us memes and stuff and saying, and as soon as she was just like, oh, it's your kid kind of thing, basically, that she's like, yep, sus, all right, cool, who's the imposter? You don't make any sense. It's like, it's like you said, John, it's like, why does she keep purposely not saying information? There was also the fact where she was like, oh, my daughter, she dresses like everyone else. No, she then doesn't. both. No one on that whole island who's a little girl wears a freaking red or very colorful like jumper and different stuff besides the hairstyle and whatnot.
I think that was
The
I think
yeah,
that was the point. She
he's
was
like Willow. You dress differently from everyone else. Look, shut up.
Yeah,
Sorry.
John.
like I think that was the point. She's saying that she dresses the same as everyone else apart from the red sweater. But I will say that I also had that exact same thought with Willow of being like, why why does she dress so differently to everyone else? Like I know that she's supposed to be like the rebel and she's been away from the island, but they're just trying to highlight her as like the important one, and I don't like that. Like I don't mind it when they do it in stories that are good because it's not really as noticeable. But when you've because like when you build up a character properly, when you've got like the character development and the background and the story and everything, like having special outfits to highlight them, whatever, it's not really noticeable. It's just part of the thing. But when you've done
Yes,
to earn
see.
that, and the only thing you're really seeming to do is make them look different to make them stand out, like they clearly picked someone that they felt was prettier than most of the other people that would be on screen to highlight that. They have her wearing like sort of normal dresses and stuff rather than the weird like Amish type shit that everyone else is wearing.
Yeah.
But it's pointless.
Can I just ask? Just because we've been talking about this for a little while, and I don't want you to take this as like an attack or anything, but like you have rated this a 6 for story.
because I feel like because
What?
five is a baseline,
Hmm.
and I feel like the potential of the story was enough that I wouldn't want to rate it lower than that. The result isn't, but I'm giving it some benefit for just what it could have been.
Okay.
Because I was interested in a lot of the threads that they laid out. They just fucking shat on it.
Hmm. I'd really, really recommend watching like the first one because like I think you do kind of see how like shallow this remake like kind of is. Like obviously I know you don't have a lot of time for films or anything, but like
I mean, I do. I just won't.
This is Terminator all over again.
Just making my intentions clear.
I'm not gonna go like it's a fucking octane coaster, right? Like it's not. It's a 70s BBC movie, but like, I think just in terms of sort of like you can see where I don't know. I think you can see like they really were not trying to make anything like extra than what they had. They just kind of went.
Yeah.
Took the lines.
Maybe they were, and it was like The Room. Maybe someone actually genuinely thought they made something that was really great,
John's
and the
face was a
people were
picture
just like,
there.
"Oh, this person's paying us for money. Let's just say yes and then leave."
Look, the thing that I was moaning about earlier, which is very much a nitpick, but I think it highlights the attitude towards this movie. I feel like they just were ticking boxes for things that they think need to be included in the movie or that should be there to make a scene better, which is, for example, that scene of him digging up a grave at nighttime. It made absolutely no sense that he was doing it at nighttime. There was no time. They like you could argue that maybe the time it took him to get from where he was to the graveyard, maybe, but as far as I know, that place is pretty small, and I mean, I guess he had to ride a bike around for some of it, so it must be big enough. But I also don't feel like it's enough time for it to be night. And again, this is just nitpicky because the film's bad, but there are no scenes at night in places that aren't well lit that a torch would fucking help you.
Yeah, just to add on to what you said, I forgot about that. Because both me and Camilla, we was watching it. She said, "Yeah, you can dig up the grave," and it's in the middle of the day. Then, like you said, the next scene is him at night digging up the site. why did you wait till night?
Is it spookier?
He gave you permission.
Like what Alec just said is pretty much what I feel about it. They literally they didn't have a story reason for it to happen. They just went, oh, it's more atmospheric for him to be digging up a grave at night, which in some examples it is. But to be honest, it doesn't actually matter that much as long as you're like filming it well and you've got the right like sound effects and music and the story is working for it. You could do it in daytime and it works just fine.
Yeah, like you said, ticking boxes.
Are you alright, Pat?
Yeah, I'm fine.
It looks like you're on the fucking ocean.
Oh, my chair rocks.
Need a breath.
I was going to say, I didn't really understand why they kept showing you the island. I'm like, this is
With the bad CGI water effects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The CGI was terrible.
Because it was like, are you trying to make it like mystical by showing you the island, and it's just like there's no point.
So again, obviously I'm sucking the original's dick right now, but like I really do prefer that it could have just been like it could have just been the Isle of fucking Man. Like it's just all these like weird people going like, oh yeah, you know the thing with the landlord's daughter is that you go, you fuck her all day. It's all right. And like, just it's just like this folky taley kind of thing. Like I think that's what they missed. Like, kind of, I think the horror of the original Wicker Man is that these are people who seem to be normal, and these are people that you run into. Like, if you just go to any rural town in England, you will run into these people. And what you don't realize is that these people that you know who exist in these rural towns, they're practicing paganism where they fucking sacrifice people like by burning them in a giant wicker man. And then you go, here's the American remake. And you go, here's a really cartoonish, all-female settlement where all the blokes are drones, and it just that immediately is like just stupid on its face. And it's like this place that like immediately just doesn't exist. This is not the place where I can go into a newsagent's and I see like some like out of touch old person going, oh yeah, the thing with the folk song is the like you just don't have that. I don't. The horror of this new one is like it. I don't believe any of these people exist in this really, unless they're being paid to simulate a weird all feminine commune. Replace where you all like emulate bees. I really don't believe this place exists.
Yeah.
I just naturally.
I think that's it.
What
Like,
you said.
Hmm?
I'm sorry.
That's right, man. Go on.
I was just saying, quickly, what you said, Alec, reminds me of like part of the thing behind Psycho. It's that this person you might come across usually, but you don't realize what's going on behind that. And that was one of the things, especially back then, that scared a lot of people because they was just like, wait, that person, there could be some freaking psycho. Carry on, Rob.
That's the slogan.
It doesn't feel like a horror movie ever.
No.
And I'm not someone who likes horror movies, but even like the normal overdone things like jump scares, there aren't any of those in here, which is like the easy thing to do, which this movie seems to just do every time it gets chances to pick the easy option. But like, if they're trying to, I guess they're trying to set the creepy atmosphere with like the the all women and like the old crone kind of women, but it just, none of it ever feels particularly creepy. And even if it does, that's the level it gets to, is creepy, which is not horror.
I think that's sorry, Dan.
I was going to say, like, you sound about the creepy bit, but they kept putting the whispering in the film.
Yeah, which felt Lovecraftian, but they never did any fucking thing with it.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing, because I think that the best horrors, they always either they kind of like play on the fears that everyone's got, like sort of like really base level stuff, even if it's just like being afraid of the dark or whatever, or they'll they'll kind of like give you sort of some kind of commentary on the way the world is, and they'll take like a really normal concept and they'll make that scary. And I think the original actually does both of those quite well, because I think religion, if you're not, well, even if you are a religious person, sometimes like the iconography and like the whole sort of, I guess, kind of like cult mentality sometimes of religions is quite scary. And then also the whole kind of like little town thing, that's also quite scary. And I think they played on both of those really well. But by making up this B cult, the original just, I mean, the remake just completely bypasses all of that. And I kind of start thinking as well, like, what are you trying to say with it? And the only thing that I really get from it is that, aren't you glad that women don't run the world? It's like, because they'd make it like a huge beehive, apparently.
It's a thing as well, and it's like, it's not even like, sorry, John, it's not even like the men are. That really fucking ties in though, doesn't it? Because it's like the only way that a female-led society can go is like if you just emasculate all the men. And it's like the men don't live with females as equals. You have to fucking emasculate them and basically make them just sex slaves. Really submissive sex slaves, just for this whole thing to even fucking function. And it's like, this is kind of a really big middle finger to like just women.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
Like, well, that's the thing about him punching the women. It's really like misogynistic in the fact of he's just punching these people in a normal society. It's deemed unacceptable, and he's just like, I'm gonna punch you in the face. I'm gonna kick you against the wall. It's just like, what? It's so preposterous that.
I think you can call it misogynistic for someone to punch and kick women when he feels like there's lives at stake. Like, I'm not saying it's good, but I don't think that's the thing that's bad about it.
Yeah, I think it's more the fact that it's him doing it because he's such a jerk, and so much of what he's doing just doesn't make any sense. That's when it seems misogynistic. But if it seemed like it made sense, like these people's lives are at stake, then we would be more on board with what he's doing. But of course, we're not. We're just like, you're an idiot. Just stop it. Nothing you're doing is achieving anything.
I think that's the thing, though. I think like I don't think the sort of act of him sort of punching the women in it is the misogynistic thing, but I do think there's like a huge misogynistic like undertone to the whole premise of it, and it's sort of it's well, it's like you said earlier, Alec. Like, you know, as well as being allergic to bees, he's also really bad with women, and he's somehow ended up on an island where he has to punch them. Like,
it's the way he's talked to like literally every person on that island. He's talked to him like a piece of shit. Even when he gets there, he goes in the tavern. And he's having a go at the woman, and he does the thing with the maid. Like, he drinks it really weirdly as well. Like, what the fuck are you doing, Nicolas Cage? Like, what?
When he walks in, he's just like, "Oh, must be ladies' night," and it's like, all right.
I think this is something as well with the original. It just looking like an ordinary Scottish island, and like it's just again someone you see like a rural fucking town. Like again, when the protagonist is like actually like punching people, it's like it's not like an uncomfortable thing. It's like he's in he's perfectly friendly as well when he's going around. Like when he first gets down, he's like, "Hello there, you said about your..." Oh, he's Irish again. He's like, "You said about your missing daughter is this, you know," and he's being perfectly genuine. And like, as soon as everything starts getting weird, he starts getting more erratic, and like there's like kind of a build to it, and it's like, yeah, he's not like just a dickhead from the word go. Whereas Nick Cage just seems to go, "Oh, I'm going to lay down the law in my own unique way, and I'm going to scream at people and crush bees." And
problem though, isn't it? Like, obviously, it depends on what Nick Cage you want to act in your movie. But when it's this kind of Nick Cage, he's so ridiculous that like because like a man punching a woman, as a man, generally, it feels wrong when you see it, even if you know that that's like either has to happen or they deserve it. It still feels wrong. But when you're watching a ridiculous man do it, it just feels comical.
That's the thing. You don't know how to react other than laugh. Like it's just like fucking hell. That's so ridiculous already. And it's just because it's so out of nowhere, and he just goes like, ah! It's you don't know how else to react other than to go like just. like,
Well, I don't, maybe this is looking too much into it, but I also feel like another sort of misogyny part of it is kind of like as far as I remember anyway, the first woman he punches is the most masculine woman.
The woman he nicks the bear suit off of.
All fucking Sister Redwood. No, it's Sister Beach, but I enjoyed calling her Redwood just because she's massive.
No, it's Beach because she's rough and she gets her.
Sandy.
That's another contrivance of it, though, isn't it? Is that Nicolas Cage on this island full of bee worshipping women managed to find somebody wearing a bear suit that would fit him.
Oh, and also, what don't.
She was bigger than him.
But the thing
you imagine
about
being part of this pagan commune and they're like, you'll be the big fucking black bear one.
What also I don't understand is you can clearly see his face, and it's not.
Yeah.
Is that I'm undercover, and you're like, it's a mesh.
But Dan also, they all knew it was him anyway. So
I know, I know that, but it's still the fact if you didn't.
You still need to create the illusion that they wouldn't know.
Yeah,
he thinks he's undercover.
Plus, like from a movie watching standpoint, if you literally couldn't see his face, makes sense. So like, I feel like that's one of those things that, like, I think there's a lot of things in movies that we take for granted as like they're not actually how it is to the characters. Like, I'm not saying they put enough thought into that, but there's a lot of things like that where I'm like, okay, I know I can see his face, but I assume that no one else can. This is just for my benefit.
Yeah,
I think this is where it's proved that that Nicolas Cage is talking shit when he says that this was purposely absurd. Because if it was purposely absurd, there would have been a bit where he was in the bear suit going, I can't believe I'm getting away with this.
He's just going like, you can clearly see my fucking face as well.
If it was purposely absurd, there'd be a scene where he's standing there putting just makeup on the bottom of his eye, and then putting the bear suit on.
I'd more readily believe that the room is like purposefully absurd than this is. Like, it's. I think that's the thing. Like, it's not even like accidentally terrible. Like, I don't know, because it kind. I don't know. I think they thought they were making an actual movie. It was like that's kind of what makes. But that's what sort of makes the room amusing. But not according to Pat, obviously.
But the difference is the bloke that made the room didn't actually know how to make a film.
Yeah.
And made a film. That's the difference. Whereas this was people that knew how to make a film but couldn't.
That is actually an issue with it. I think because the people behind it are professional filmmakers, it does actually have like enough of a structure of an actual film for it to be really fucking boring in between the memes.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying earlier. Like, it's people who know what makes up a movie and knows like the hero's journey and all that bollocks. So they're just ticking the boxes. They're not actually like weaving together an intricate story or an interesting like world or anything. They're just like, oh yeah, so like, there needs to be a conflict and then there needs to be that. Like, what's it going to be? Fuck it, bees. Like,
bees are mildly scary. No.
Ben, are you okay?
No, I'm dropping off.
You look a bit sleepy.
Yeah, I'm the same, to be fair.
I think the thing that really
I've been up
killed the
since
film
6.
wait, what? I can't do math. I was going to make a joke about 6 p.m., but my brain died.
Yeah.
It's 6 hours.
Yeah, it's quite easy, really, when you think.
Yeah, it was actually. Sorry, Ham.
I was going to say, it's just his dialogue. It's just like when he starts talking, you're just like, oh, fucking hell. Like, kill me. Because it's just everything he says to people. You're just like, would someone really say that in a situation where he's like not supposed to be there and he's just talking to people like they're a piece of shit? Like,
Would someone say that if they weren't a Scottish Christian policeman man? Yeah.
Even
But he's a highway cop.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, the highway cop thing doesn't actually matter. It's the fact that he's in a completely different state. But like, even like the meme of how to get burned, like, why does that matter?
Yeah.
Story-wise, what relevance does the doll being burned matter? Like, because it's also only burned on the face. Like, the whole doll isn't burned. That's clearly an intentional thing that was done. And like, again, like there's moments where the film like could be good. Like, for example, when he's speaking to Sister Rose, and she's like, "Oh, she will be burned," and he's like, "What?" And it's like, "I told you, she burned." Like, I can't remember the exact wording, but like, I thought that was quite nice the way they did that, because the wording she used, it could have been really forced, but the wording she used was actually quite. It felt a bit subtle, like, because it is quite interchangeable, the two saying it. But then, like, when you find out it was all a ploy, and like, it feels a bit on the nose when you think of it that way.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Like, because I think once you look back at it and you actually have in mind like what kind of things they're actually trying to get across to you, like I was saying before, like about how the island literally does live like bees. Like once you watch it and then you realize, oh, there's actually like they actually cut honeycomb into their grass as well. It's like you realize like how little they trust the audience to get what's going on.
Yeah.
There's things like that in a lot of movies, but it's pretty insulting and ridiculous. Like, because something like the hexagonal honeycomb cutting thing, that would just, if this movie was good and it felt good, you'd just be like, oh, okay. Like, it's just a little. Whereas because it isn't, it does just feel insulting. You'll be like, get it, bees.
Well, that's the thing, like, because like I was saying earlier, like when I kind of like had the realization that the whole thing is fucking bees, like I said I messaged Alec and I was like, oh, I've just realized that like all of the women are living like bees, and then I was like, I can't decide if that's cool or not, and then Alec was like, no, that's lame, and then I started to think about it and I was like, yeah, as a concept, living like bees is fucking stupid. and then seeing
That
the
was
honeycomb
cool.
after that, it's like, oh god.
If I said that was cool though, then I would have become Rob, and I'd have had all the power in the group.
No, if you'd said that was cool, that would have been the moment when Rob went, no, actually, it's really fucking stupid.
Film club, get out of here. Ben and Patrick, do you have any closing? Do you want to start wrapping this up? Do you have any thoughts you want to impart about the Wicker Man, the bad one?
What I'm interested in, Pat.
I said
is that,
Ben and Patrick.
Yeah, I'm bringing it to him. What I'm interested in, Pat, is you're the only one who watched the original and thought it was as bad as the remake.
Yeah, I just didn't enjoy it. I just thought it was.
No distortion.
There was singing in it. Of course, Pat wasn't going to like it.
Yeah, it was quite close to a musical, actually. There was a lot of singing.
I didn't really consider it a musical though. I just found it really boring.
It's the same one, isn't it?
Like, for me, obviously the remake has got a lot of differences, probably a lot worse differences, but at heart they were still quite similar. And like, I just didn't get on with either of them. I thought the original was quite mediocre.
I think the thing is, like, the similarities between them are that they've basically lifted a few lines and a few actions, but all of the meaning behind what they've lifted is completely gone, which
Yeah.
is why the remake's so shit.
Yeah, because that's the thing. The context of why they say, because it, as I said, like the dialogue's so bad, but when you just go to that scene where they're in the school, it's completely different. It's like old English. It's just like this doesn't make any sense in this context because you've just gone from Nicolas Cage talking like a twat to people to them doing some kind of pagan, like Celtic kind of rhyming or whatever they do. It's just like, what?
I would really recommend watching the original in relation to this. Like,
Well, I was gonna, but I didn't have enough time to do it.
well, it's your event, so you know. I watched The Disaster Artist. You know,
Is that a CD?
Dan,
That's the DVD.
Oh, it's a DVD.
Right.
John in the back.
I was just going to say Ben didn't worry about having enough time, so I wouldn't have worried about it.
Whoa! Shit!
How did it get burned?
That's how, actually.
Oh no, I better not do the burn face because that's completely inappropriate.
Ben, any parting thoughts?
Yeah, it's just like all I would say is that the remake is just like a bland version of the original. Really, it doesn't really do anything new or doesn't do anything better. It's just a kind of like mediocre version, really. Which is a shame because, like we said before, an American version in North America could have had this great potential because there was a lot of history there, but it doesn't tap into any of it. So it's kind of like it just treads water, I've thought.
I think that's the thing as well. Like, there's such prime fucking material there for like just kind of religion in America.
Yeah.
That you could tap into, and it's like, do you want to do that? Nah, please.
That's the thing, isn't it? Like, there's so many different cultures in America, and you could have taken any two of those cultures, put them against each other for this film, and it probably would have worked. But instead, they made up a completely new one that makes no sense at all.
Because it doesn't make any sense. It just makes it really whimsical. The fact of this doesn't really scare you because they're just completely bonkers.
Yeah, but I must admit it did make me laugh quite a few times, so it's not completely worthless.
I think I think also that's the thing because, like, you know, I think in terms of sort of a bad movie, like I think I find The Room more consistently amusing, whereas like you gotta kind of plod through a lot with Wicker Man. Like I can pick out like about 7 places where I laughed, and like that's a lot more than a lot of comedies, but like it is still a lot after like a 2.5 hour kind of thing.
It's not 2.5 hours long.
Bless you, John. Whatever. 2 hours long.
It's only an hour and a half.
Oh, well, it felt like 2.5 hours.
That is testament to how much there is in between the memes.
Oh well. And literally, the two main memes, the bear and the bees, are literally at the end of the film. So you have to wait all that time. I was waiting for the whole film. I'm like, where's the bit where he punches? Oh, this is the bear suit. And then it led up to it. I'm like, yeah, he's gonna get the. And he punches it, and it's just hilarious.
The only meme I knew from this was the bees, and I didn't fucking get it.
Oh man.
I apologize, John.
Ben, if you're feeling fucking tired, like, it's all right.
Wait until the announcement.
What have you been doing? Like drinking? What?
On. We're talking about the fact that Ben might need to go because he's tired, and you're like, so what's been going on? Let's have a good chat.
No, I'm asking him why he's tired.
Yeah, I don't think he wants to talk about it, to be honest.
I've had a long week.
Oh.
John, do you want to announce your film and let Ben go to bed, and then we can just sort of carry on and just put him out of his misery?
The bees.
Or Dan, shut up. Yeah, everyone should know it already, but it's Judge Dredd. I That's it.
The Sylvester Stallone one, not the
Where
new
can
one.
we watch it?
Well, that's why I said Judge Dredd and not just Dredd, Alec.
Yeah.
Yeah, Humphrey.
And the only place I could find to watch is on fucking Amazon, and you can't rent it, you have to buy it. So either people will have to, like, one person buy it and share it, or Rob can acquire it through other means and Dropbox it.
I think what you mean, John, is I'll upload it to the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, we don't want to imply that Rob is some kind of criminal.
Because you know this is totally recorded, right?
But it is Rob, and he does live here.
I mean, there were no implications. Like I said earlier, sometimes you have to go the seafaring way.
Yeah,
No,
like
matey.
through a legal import from Amazon.
It's like, oh, what's that fake gold stuff called? Don't worry about it.
Yeah, Rob, let us know when you've acquired the package.
Like how you went to go and hide it. Let us know when you have, acquired the drugs.
Like, if we need to do an undercover thing, just let's not pick Pat.
Yeah.
All right. Good night, guys.
Rob, let us know when
Alright,
you've
night, Pat.
found the old contraband.
Night,
I mean,
Oh, Pat's gone.
No, fuck you, Pat.
Well, you said good night.